Are you one RSVP away from setting up your own customer service hotline? I mean, God love your family and friends, but there's a point where your wedding planning feels like a full-time job for several people, and one of them mans the help desk. If you had $1 for every time someone asked, "What's the dress code?" or "Can I bring a +1?" you'd have enough to pay for the open bar. But seriously, there's a way to cut the volume of those repeat questions pretty much in half. So before you hit the delete guest list button, consider this. Your wedding website is like your very own virtual assistant, and the FAQ page means that they're working for you 24/7. It's like the frequently asked questions section on your favorite online store, but instead of shipping rates, dispatch times, returns info, it's yes, there is parking, no, you can't bring your dog, and yes, there'll be a gluten-free option for dessert, saving you time, your sanity, and about 67 text messages. And when you use your wedding website to anticipate your guests' concerns, you'll also minimize the back and forth communication with them. It's also important to include clear and comprehensive FAQs to help you hold your boundaries and to communicate any changes or exceptions to the decisions that you've already made. I've pulled together a list of the most common and helpful 16 FAQs to get you started. Let's get stuck into this. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille, and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. It is absolutely true that every couple getting married is unique and the celebration they've got planned is their very own. But equally, there are some generational understandings and expectations of a wedding that mean that it's highly likely you will need to include most of these FAQs in your wedding website. You may also have something very specific happening that you think your guests need to know about in advance, like any adventurous aspects, maybe something involving heights, water, or animals being involved. It's smart to let people know. But also consider if you want every single aspect of your planning to be revealed before your fam and friends even get there. There may be some elements that are best kept as a surprise, and if they don't affect anyone's safety or personal planning, then I think that's pretty reasonable too. Now, if you don't have a wedding website, I recommend that you have a listen to episode number 15, the 3 biggest wedding planning time sucks and how to avoid them with Wedsites, WEDSITES. Or if you prefer to read your info, head to the Unbridely blog for best wedding websites of 2024 and why you need one, because you do. So let's delve into these frequently asked questions. And I wouldn't hesitate to say that I think this is the most important because some people, some generations that you'll be sending your wedding invitations to are not comfortable with doing this online and they're not familiar with the process. So I believe that frequently asked question number 1 needs to be, how and when should I RSVP? Now, we're writing these from the perspective of your guest. So they're asking this question, how and when should I RSVP? This is when you clearly explain how your friends and family should RSVP, send you the confirmation that they're either planning to attend or not via any means you want, really. It can be via your wedding website. It can be an email. It can be snail mail if they prefer that. Text messages, they have their place sometimes, but also they're the ones that tend to go missing. When you read a text and you go, oh yeah, and you respond in your mind, but you don't actually type it out and send it.
that can happen when people RSVP on text. It's something that you check off in your own head, but then don't follow up on. So that can be, a potential Bermuda Triangle for RSVPs. Phone calls, also, you're not always taking these phone calls when you're sitting there in front of your guest list and you can, tick it or check it or go, yes, RSVP'd on this date. You could be taking a phone call while you're driving in the car. So, it's not the most foolproof form of RSVP, but however you prefer it, that's how you need to let your guests know that that's how you would like them to RSVP. You want to give them a deadline. You want to give them the extended deadline, as in the deadline that's pushed out a week, maybe even 2, from the actual date that you need those final numbers, and include custom questions there like, do you have any dietary restrictions, any meal preferences, whatever options you're actually giving your guests. And just another thing, please aim to keep your RSVP forms, if they're on a wedding website, as short as possible, as foolproof as possible. You'll thank me later. Question number 2, and I think, it is probably second in importance. What is the date, the time, and the location of your wedding? So, it seems so simple, right? It seems really, really bloody simple. But some couples forget, because they sometimes spend over a year going over this date, time, and location information. They forget that other people aren't looking inside their own brains. So make sure you get it out. You get it on your wedding website. You get it in your frequently asked questions. So reiterate, even though you've got it on your invitations, reiterate the basic details of your celebration: the date, the time, the exact addresses for both ceremony and reception venues and any other venues that you need your guests to rock up at. Please mention if your venue is wheelchair accessible, or perhaps has any entrances or pathways that are difficult for those who aren't steady on their feet, if that's applicable to you and your family and friends who are going to be coming along. I just know from experience, sometimes couples don't anticipate that people aren't as mobile as they are. So add it in, be a bit considerate. Think about how other people will feel rolling up to your venue and then discovering they've got a 15-minute walk up a steep incline. And include an interactive Google map if possible. Be specific with your directions. So one thing that springs to mind for me is our beautiful, stunning Adelaide Botanic Garden, right in the heart of the city. It's pretty big. There are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 entrances. Sorry, I had to see them in my head and had to count them out. 6 different entrances to this place, right? And there are, I don't know, possibly 5, maybe 6 wedding ceremonies going on, and possibly a reception as well in at the beautiful restaurant there on any given Saturday. So when your guests go, oh, we're going to your wedding at the Adelaide Botanic Garden, beautiful, and this is the date and this is the time, that's all good and well, but they need to know which gate they're going in, what little path they need to go down so they don't rock up at the wrong wedding out of 6 of them, and roughly how long it's going to take them to do that. So for my couples who are getting married in the Adelaide Botanic Garden, for example, I would highly suggest that you have the site map, that you have it circled, that you have written somewhere. It's going to take you 15 minutes to walk in from North Terrace or something like that. Let your guests know what they're up against. Don't expect them to already have this information at their fingertips or have been to your wedding venue before. Frequently asked question number 3, what time should I arrive at the wedding ceremony? And letting your guests know this will avoid latecomers. But please know that no matter what you do, there will always be one or a couple of people rocking up late, but you can't wait forever, okay? But if you want your ceremony to start at a particular time, be sure to let your guests know to arrive a minimum of 15 minutes prior to that. And if you're supplying them with the drink, 30 minutes in advance. So you could say, please arrive at 3:30 p.m. for a 4 p.m. ceremony, refreshments provided. And also make sure to put in there whether there is a time gap between your ceremony and your reception celebrations. This lets your guests know what they're doing, where they're parking, why they might have to move cars, should they have an alcoholic drink before your ceremony, knowing that they have to drive again within an hour later. So you might want to let your guests know how they can fill in that time if necessary, or, leave it to them. It depends where you are. If you're very remote, you might be looking after them between your ceremony and reception, but let them know that as well. Fact number 4, what is the wedding day itinerary? If you provide a general timeline of the day, and there's no need to get into specifics, you want to include key events like the ceremony, then cocktail hour, then reception, and last drinks are at this time. You want to let them know if there's any pre and or after parties, if that's what you're having. And this makes it, again, super helpful for your guests to plan their transportation. If they want to ride share, whether they're Ubering or just want to go along with other guests, they want to know when they can have a drink and when they'll be back to relieve the babysitter. And I know it sounds crazy, but it helps them plan their energy levels too. It helps them to know, okay, I'm going to have a really big breakfast, then we're going to do the ceremony. We'll have a late lunch in between, and then we're going to be going until 12 o'clock at night. We'll get the babysitter till 12:30, 1 o'clock. It helps everyone to plan for and rock up to your wedding as their best selves, with their full attention, with their best energy. Number 5, what type of food will you be serving? So that's the guest asking you, of course. And so please give your guests an idea of the meal service style. And what I mean by that is, are you serving buffet style? Are people getting up, getting a plate, putting stuff on their plate, taking it back to a seat? Or will they be seated and then the meals are brought around to them, plated meals? Is it family style? Are there big platters going down in the center of the table they help themselves? It helps. It helps with expectations again, and being clear about what dietary restriction options are available for them and how guests can communicate their needs to you in advance, because you don't want to find this out last minute. It's particularly tricky when you're at a remote venue, a venue that doesn't have a fully stocked kitchen behind them. They only bring what they need to serve the guests they've got. So, yeah, it's very important to make sure your guests know they can communicate this in advance, get that info through to you, you get it to your caterers. Question number 6, are my kids welcome? You need to make this decision whether or not children are invited to your wedding. And if it's a yes, provide information on childcare, whether or not you're having the likes of a wedding nanny or whether there's kid-friendly activities, different ways that children can enjoy the day on their own terms, whether there's a separate room, whether there's, 20 kids and they're all going to be together. Let the parents know. And if your answer is a no, you want to include a polite note about your adult-only event. And if you need some help with that, you can head on back to episode number 36, Why Child-Free Weddings Are So Controversial, plus adults-only wedding wording. And I'll put the link in the show notes for you. You can head back in there, grab that wording, put it straight into your FAQs. Things that bore me as a grown-up: dusting, finding the best energy company deal for our family's needs, and getting stuck in traffic. And you know what else is right up there? Changing my name after I got married. In fact, just the thought of the process and how many different companies I'd need to contact to make it happen makes me feel, at best, overwhelmed, and at worst, like I really should get stuck into the dusting. It's estimated that newlyweds spend up to 8 hours of their precious time working through the name change process, with an average of 27 places that they need to contact. This is where Easy Name Change comes in. They've been around for 15 years, continually developing and improving the most comprehensive name change services, not just in Australia, but worldwide. And their kits provide you with a sort of shopping list of companies where you simply pick which ones you need to notify. They send you a list with detailed instructions for each of your companies, saving you hours of calling around, waiting on hold, sending emails, and then waiting for a response. Easy name change kits also provide ready-to-send forms, letters, and emails, so you just attach your marriage certificate and you're done. Starting at $35, the value and time you get back is a no-brainer. For more help on changing your name after you get married, there is an excellent blog post on the Unbridely website, and I'll put a link in the show notes for you. And Unbridely podcast listeners get a $5 discount on their name change kits by using the code Unbridely5, that's UNBRIDELY5, the number 5, which is valid until the end of 2024. So don't be like me. Get your easy name change kit so you can move on to the fun parts of being grown-ups together. Question number 7. What colour should I wear? Dress code and colour preferences, this is where you're putting them. So specify what dress code you want your family and friends to arrive in. If jeans are a no-no, please put it in there. If everyone's bringing their cowboy hats, their boots, let everyone know so everyone can feel comfortable. General dress codes like black tie, cocktail, casual, very helpful, but then venue-specific advice, so letting your guests know whether or not they're going to be outdoors, whether they're in a paddock or on a terrace, whether they should avoid the stilettos or bring a jacket for the evening. It's super helpful, it's caring, it's looking after the enjoyment of your guests. And any specific colours or styles that you would like your guests to wear or avoid to suit your wedding aesthetic. You might have all of your wedding party in a certain colour and you'd like everyone to stay away from that because you want them to stand out. Let them know here in the FAQs. Number 8, should we bring or should we send our wedding gift? So share the details of your gift registry or your wishing well. If you're having something like that for your wedding, provide the links where necessary. Let guests know where to send gifts as well if they're unable to attend the wedding. They might want to purchase something for you on your registry and post it or hand deliver it to a certain address. And you don't want them all rocking up on your doorstep. You don't. A couple of weeks before. So delegate that to someone. Might be your parents. It might be a maid of honour. It might be your next door neighbour is able to help out. Let your guests know where they can send gifts in advance, because even if they are attending your wedding, it's so much easier to do the gift part first, to be able to arrive at your wedding empty-handed, ready to dance, ready to celebrate with you, rather than lugging something in and not having a gift table there at the ceremony and uncomfortably standing there with it, or having it in the car, having to go back. You know what I mean. Question number 9, is there parking available at the venue? There are very few venues that don't have parking available, but many people get caught up in their own planning, in their own anxieties about where are they going to park. So provide information about available parking options that might be on site. It might be nearby parking lots. It could be street parking. Just let your guests know. And if you can include an estimate for any fees they might be expected to pay or any parking restrictions, maybe the available parking ceases at a certain time, let them know that. And any suggestions for rideshare services if the parking's limited. Question 10, will there be a shuttle bus or transportation? A lot of couples say, are we responsible for our guests? It's a lot of money. We can't really afford to hire a bus. It's not widely considered that you're responsible for getting your guests to your wedding celebration. But if you are able to afford it, it's a beautiful gesture to be able to say, don't worry about a thing. You get dressed, you go to this spot, I get someone to pick you up, bring you to my thing, and get you home safely. That's pretty amazing. So if you can afford it, if you're able to, if you want to, provide details of any transportation that you've arranged. And sometimes, depending on where you are, it might just be a shuttle bus that's actually run by your wedding venue or the hotel that your guests are staying in. So you can give them information about that too, if there's a shuttle schedule, and how to reserve seats if that's what they need to do. Question 11, will you be live streaming your wedding? I hate to say it, but some of your guests will be going, I could flip a coin as to whether or not I attend. It's not great. It's not great. But people have got their own lives. Absolutely. I understand that. Some people can't get leave from their jobs. A lot of people around the world don't get paid if they take leave. So asking someone to attend a wedding and them having to take time to get to you, to pay money to stay somewhere by your wedding, it's a big ask in someone's life. So some of your family and friends will be thinking, I love them. I wish I could attend. But if they're having a live stream of the ceremony, then perhaps I can feel better about telling them the truth and telling them I can't afford to go. So if you're planning to live stream the wedding for those who can't make it, share the streaming details in there, include any instructions for accessing the stream and the platform you'll be using and all those sorts of things. Put them right in there. It'll help your guests to make decisions and still make them feel a part of what you're doing. Question number 12, can I take photos or post on social media? Man, why can't people stop? It's baffling to me as a marriage celebrant as to why people feel the need to take photos during a momentous time in a couple's life. I don't get it, but it is something that people feel really strongly about. So when you make your decision as to whether or not you're okay with your guests taking photos during your ceremony and or your reception, you need to put this in your frequently asked questions. You need to mention it if you prefer what's known as an unplugged ceremony, a ceremony when all phones are turned off or put on silent and put away until after. You've got to let them know this. It's really common now as well to set expectations around sharing of photos of your wedding on social media. So especially if you want to review and use an official photo, one that your pro photographer has taken, and be the one to announce your marriage to the wider world. This is becoming more and more widely accepted, and something that I also announced during the housekeeping notes, before my couple's ceremony kicks off, just to let everyone know, hey, if you've got a gorgeous photo, I understand you're excited to share it, but can you wait? Can you wait until this super excited couple who just got hitched share their news to the wider world themselves first? They deserve that. It's a private event. They're allowing you in there. So they're letting you know when it's acceptable to share their news. I think it's completely reasonable. But if that's something that you want, set some expectations around that in your frequently asked questions. It's going to help for when your celebrant or your officiant announces that during your ceremony. People will go, oh yeah, I remember reading something about that. Believe me, it helps. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. I know this is a long list. Everything's pretty important though. So frequently asked question number 13, are there any pre or post wedding events? So information about wedding related events like your welcome dinner, your post-wedding brunch, your rehearsal dinner. It's important to have that information easily available for your family and friends. And obviously, you're only sharing these details if all guests are invited, or if you have the ability in your wedding website to use a separate invitation for select guests. And that's where WedSites is so brilliant in allowing your guest list to be split into different events. Question 14 is, where will wedding updates be posted? I hate to burst your bubble, but The best laid plans get changed several times before the actual wedding day. So please let your guests know where they can check in for any updates or changes to crucial things like timing, location, date. I'd recommend that you use the wedding website email, which can send an email blast out to everyone, or a specific social media page for any last-minute announcements you want to get to everyone quickly. And get the info out to everyone at once, if possible. Question 15, what should we do during our stay? For destination weddings, it's polite to include recommendations for local restaurants and activities and attractions. You can help your family and friends make the most of their trip with a couple of recommendations that suit a variety of interests and, whether or not it's just a couple coming or maybe a family with kids. It all helps. And the final question, very, very important, is from your guest perspective, I have more questions. You haven't answered what I wanted to know. Who can I contact? Provide a contact person. So whether that's included in your wedding planning package with your wedding planner, whether it's a dedicated family member or as a last resort, please, you and your fiancé, for anything additional that's not covered in the frequently asked questions, make sure the contact info is easy to find. Encourage your guests to check the frequently asked questions page first before reaching out as well. Sometimes you just got to say it. Did you check the FAQs? Please do that. So just to quickly recap, the must-have frequently asked questions for a wedding website. And remember, this is going to greatly reduce the time you spend answering your guests' questions. It's going to streamline the whole process for you. Number 1, how and when should I RSVP? Number 2, what is the date, time, and location of the wedding? 3, what time should I arrive at the wedding ceremony? Which shouldn't be the time that the wedding ceremony starts. 4, what is the wedding day itinerary or timeline, however you want to put it? 5, what type of food will you be serving? Question 6, are my kids welcome? 7, what should I wear? Dress code and colour preferences if that's what you're doing. Number 8, should we bring or send our wedding gift? Number 9, is there parking available at the venue? Number 10, will there be a shuttle bus or transportation? 11, will you be live streaming your wedding? 12, can I take photos or post on social media? 13, are there any pre or post wedding events? Question 14, where will wedding updates be posted? 15, what should we do during our stay? And question 16 is, I have more questions. Who can I contact? So as a final tip, make sure you keep your frequently asked questions page updated as things change along the way, because they do, and that's completely okay. It's just best to communicate those changes as early as you possibly can to get as many people there with you on your day, celebrating, completely comfortable, prepared, happy, and engaged, so that you can have the best time. Let me know if you've got any other brilliant and absolutely necessary frequently asked questions to add to your wedding website, and I'll be right here with you again next week. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.